Hey, it's Matt here with Peppercoat BBQ, and welcome back to the Peppercoat deck. Today, I'm going to be showing you some fire management tips and tricks for the Old Country BBQ Pits G3 smoker. This is a fully insulated smoker, so it is a little different than the average pit that you would run that is not insulated. So we're going to talk about some of the differences, how to control the temperature. I'm going to throw on some nice thick cut bacon today. We're going to do a little bacon test so we can see how our temperatures are throughout the chamber. I'll show you some results I got for some previous tests where I was checking temperatures, how to set up the deflector plate, all that good stuff's coming up, so stick around. So this smoker operates a little differently than your typical smoker because it is fully insulated. Again, there's 2 inches of insulation here in the firebox, 1 inch of insulation in the cooking chamber. So it should hold heat really well. I've done some testing on this over the last few weeks. It does a great job, especially if you're in colder climates. Man, this is going to be the cat's meow for you. Now, Old Country sent out some suggested fire management tips for this pit. And the first one was to start the fire with 4 splits, each weighing approximately 1 pound. Now, I like to start my fire with some lump oak, and so fittingly enough, I'm using some Old Country lump charcoal to start this fire. But I've weighed this out with some kitchen scales, and I have 2 pounds of lump oak charcoal in here that I'm going to light. Once it gets to burning and kind of gets ashed over a little bit, or at least gets started well, I'm going to put 2 1-pound splits on top to make up that 4 pounds of fuel they said that I needed to start this pit. While that fire is getting started, I've got my door completely open. I have the stack open all the way. I've taken this rack out, and I'm just going to move my baffle plate out from the firewall just a little bit here. I'm going to leave maybe about 1/4 of an inch gap between this. If you're looking straight down here, you can see just a little bit of a gap between this bottom part of this slide and where this baffle plate is. Now, during my testing, I'll talk more about this during the video and the temperatures I was getting, but during the testing, this seemed to work the best. It allows heat to come out up here at the top, to come up, so we get that top down cooking. But we also have quite a bit of heat that's coming through here at the bottom that keeps the bottom side of the pit warm and gives us nice even cooking all the way across. It's just not very cold here today. It's about 60 degrees, but it is pretty windy, and this wind is coming through the chamber right now and forcing its way down here. You can see a lot of this smoke's coming out this way. But this fire has been going for about 10 minutes. That lump is lit up pretty good. So I have 2 splits here, and one of these was like 14 ounces and the other one's like 1.2 ounces. So total, that is 2 pounds, along with our 2 pounds of lump that's in there. That's 4 pounds of fuel. So I'm going to put these 2 splits in. I'm just going to lay them kind of across this fire that we have going. Give them a chance to get started. And then also I'm going to go ahead and close these doors down. I want to get that draft going the correct way. I'm going to close my lid. And Old Country says that you should be able to close this vent and also your stack down to like 1/2 to 1/4 of the way to get this fire going. Now, it is very important with this pit, because it is fully insulated, that you do not overshoot that temperature. And I've ran this thing for a few days now, trying to get used to the temperature control on it. And if you overshoot the temperature that you are going for, it takes a long time for this thing to come back down, and more than likely your fire is going to have to almost completely die out to get those temperatures back down where you want them, because you hold and retain a lot of heat with these dual wall insulated pits. All right, so it's been 1 hour and 5 minutes since we started the fire. It's been probably 50 minutes, I guess, since I put these two splits on. And Old Country says you need to give at least an hour for this pit to come up to temp, which I agree. You need to bring it up very slowly. I have had to come out here a couple of times, open the door, and then kind of stir up the coals a little bit. The fire started to die down around 115 and then again around 199. It got up to 210, seemed like it was stalling out again. And I'm okay with that. I'm in no hurry today. I would rather bring this up slowly than to pile it full of splits. And next thing you know, it's 400 or 500 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and throw another split in here. I like to get up to around 250 to 270. That's my preferred temperature for most cooks. But, you know, it's up to you. Right now I'm at 210, and a lot of guys will start out there. I'm going to go ahead and add this other split. Give it just a minute to get started. And this one also was about 1 pound. It's fairly long, but it's not very thick. Should start pretty quickly. You can also see the smoke that's coming out. Now, if you do this method to start this and close these intakes down and your stack down to about half as it is recommended, when this first starts, there was a lot of dirty smoke. So again, you know, feel free to do what's right for you. Leave the doors open if you want to get it started. Again, though, just make sure to keep an eye on it, because when you get a raging fire, you shut everything down and then that temperature is going to spike up on you. And once you get all this metal and this insulation heated up, it's going to take a long time for that temperature to come back down to where you want it. You can see it's cleaned up now, though, getting a nice clean smoke with the stack open halfway and these vents are open halfway. So we've stabilized around this 250 degree mark. That's what I was shooting for. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the bacon on here. That way we can see how our heat is traveling through the chamber. So I know from the testing that I've done already that this side over here next to the firebox, especially on the top rack, it is going to be done much quicker. We'll keep a check on it. I've still got these vents here about, I don't know, half, maybe 3/4 of the way open now. You can see what this looks like with what we've burnt. Remember, the only thing we've put in here is 2 pounds of lump and then 3 1-pound splits so far. I'm getting ready to add another split in here. Just want to work this around, make sure our ash falls down to the bottom. And there's a ton of heat in there. It's extremely hot. Again, this is a really dry pecan split. Weighs about 1 pound. We'll put that in there, let it catch, lock it back down. Still running my stack halfway. And some of you guys may be concerned about that stack only being open halfway. So that does cut back on some of the convection that is going through here. It may cut back on rendering fat caps. Not sure about that yet. I'm going to try a pork butt on here in the next few days. I'll make sure to record that and see how that works. But overall, I think this gives you the benefit of having the wood flavor without having to feed it so many splits so often. While we wait, here are some results from some of the testing that I did with the baffle plate up against the firewall versus having about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch gap away from the firewall. Both of these were running at 250 degrees. Now, I did round up or down to the nearest 5 digits in the degrees just to make it a little easier to look at. But you can see in the yellow that it was with no gap, and then in the green is with the gap. And they're very similar, very close. The only difference is the top rack is just slightly hotter, and the bottom rack seemed to have just a little bit less variance if we left that 1/4 inch gap in there running at 250 degrees. Now, I did remove the baffle plate, but when I did that, I really didn't do much testing because right off the bat, the whole, right hand side of the smoker shot up into the 380s, and I was losing a lot more cook space. So I decided really quickly that I thought it would be better to use the baffle, and I kind of like it with that 1/4 inch gap. It's been 30 minutes. Oh yeah. Yeah, this bacon over here on this end, this is what I knew was going to happen. You can see how much more done this is. I can get you in here close. There you go. Look at that. You can see this one here, right where this heat's coming up. These two pieces are definitely done. And then you can see a huge temperature change right in here in this area. Yeah, so we got on this bottom rack. So we got a nice even heat here across the bottom. Looking really good. Except for right here again, near the firebox, we're showing this piece is almost done. So we're going to let it stay for just a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to harvest these two. The bacon has been on for about an hour and a half. I'm going to open it and check on it. I did pull those other two pieces that was on the bottom shelf off, probably again about 30 minutes ago or something. So that's 4 pieces that I have taken off that was near the firebox. But what I wanted to show you was the amount of moisture in this pit versus the Pecos. Now in the Pecos, when I'm running this, even with the stack half closed, when you open this up, it is dry as it can be underneath. Over here, when I open this stack up, there's a lot of moisture dripping off of it. So may not get the bark build that we get on the Pecos because we lack that airflow. But what we are going to get is a lot of moisture that is retained inside of this pit. And this is nice also. I mean, the top of this, it's hot, but I mean, you can lay your hand on it and not get burnt. Now over here on the firebox is still really hot. I mean, I can touch it, but I'm not going to want to lay my hand on there for very long at a time. So let's check on this bacon, hour and a half in, see what it looks like. That looks like bacon to me. If you're going to run a water pan, then look, you're not going to be using this space anyway. Now, I don't know really with the extra moisture that you're retaining in here if you need a water pan. And all the testing that I did, I ran the water pan, so I probably will, especially on the initial cook. But if you have your water pan right here up pretty close to that wall, you're not going to have anything that close anyway. And as long as you don't set anything right over the water pan that you don't want crispy, that leaves all of this space. I would say you're keeping at least 85, maybe 90% of your cooking area by setting your smoker up this way. So let's pull this bacon off and let these finish up. I'm going to run to the grocery store about a mile away, grab another pack of bacon while this finishes up. I'm going to slide the deflector plate over, and then we'll check that out. Here we are, 2 hours total on the bacon. We're sitting at 271 degrees. Yeah, these are ready to pull off now here on the bottom. See, those are nice and even. This one over here next to the firebox, it is a little more done, but not much. It's still got, it's still got some bend to it. I've pulled all the bacon. I slid the deflector plate back against the firewall. Now I'm going to reload with another 2 pounds of bacon for the next test. So I've got these on here spread out pretty evenly across the grates, and we'll see what happens. It's been about 40 minutes since we put that last batch on there. See what we have here. See this side over here next to the firebox, even with that deflector plate all the way over, this side is much more done. Still a lot more heat over there in that corner. And that's the same thing that I was seeing with the thermometer. On our lower level, still got quite a ways to go. And you can see this piece back here next to the firebox is also crunchy already. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these couple of pieces off here and let the rest ride for a while. It's been about another 25 minutes since we pulled these few strips off over here. Oh, these are looking good. These are right here on the top. And still we have a nice even heat all the way across the top. You can tell by the way these are cooking. On the bottom, this one over here, it's a little more done, but very even across the bottom. You can tell the top rack is definitely hotter, and it gets cooler over here to the left on the bottom rack. Again, these pieces over here closest to the firebox, they are more done, but hey, that's where your radiant heat is, and a lot of that heat coming out of the bottom. Seems like with the deflector plate pulled out that 1/4 inch like I had it before, you gain just maybe a little more usable space here, but I'm telling you guys, not much at all. Again, you do it the way you want to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and pull this top row off. So while I'm waiting on that bottom rack of bacon to finish up, before it gets dark out here, I just want to give a few closing thoughts or final thoughts on the smoker. So again, this is the first time that I've actually cooked anything on this smoker, ran fires on it for a few days to try to get used to it. And it does what you would expect it to do, or what you would think an insulated smoker would do, how it would behave. So you don't get the massive spikes in temperature when you throw in another split like you do in a smaller pit. You have all of this metal in here that kind of compensates, and the insulation, that radiant heat really helps to protect against those temperature swings. You know, you're not having to feed as much wood into it. Now, if you use a bigger split, you know, it's going to heat up more and it may cause you some issues, but using the smaller splits, still about every 45 minutes or so, you'll put a split in it. And if you're using that same size split over here on the Pecos, it's probably going to burn up in about 20 minutes to try to keep that temperature up. So less wood usage, better temperature control, a lot of space, a lot of usable space. As we saw, it retains a lot of moisture in the pit. So a lot of good things going for the G3 here. I'm really excited to get a pork butt on there, see how it renders out that fat cap. And maybe we'll do that for the next cook. So I'll see you next time on Peppercoat Barbecue.